Good morning. It happened again last weekend. A wrong-way driver slamming into a car right on a Connecticut highway. It happened at 1:30 in the morning on I-95 in West Haven. As is the case in most of these crashes, there were fatalities. 4 young people are dead, all in their 20s, including the wrong-way driver. 4 families changed forever. Just a month earlier to the north on I-95, another fatal crash in Branford involving a wrong-way driver. And there's another one to tell you about as well, a wrong-way accident on I-84 in Farmington. This happened in mid-October. 4 cars were involved there. In this case, luck played a hand. Everyone escaped with just minor injuries. The commissioner of the state's Department of Transportation addressed these crashes in a press conference 1 year ago this month.
Wrong-way driving crashes in Connecticut tripled in 2022, and wrong-way fatalities are up 500% in our state. It's an alarming number given the types of crashes these are. They're typically head-on, really gruesome, and 100 times more fatal than other types of crashes we see on our roadways.
Now, the state has added some tech to certain highway on-ramps and off-ramps to try to prevent these crashes, and there is evidence it's working. Joining me this morning is Dr. Eric Jackson. He's the executive director of the Connecticut Transportation Institute and director of the Connecticut Transportation Safety Research Center, both those places located at UConn. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Just this past week after this latest crash, there was another news conference. We showed one from a year ago. They talked about it again, and in this one, the governor called this a public health crisis. You're the researcher. Do you agree?
Absolutely. So these crashes are often fatal. They often occur late at night, and we're seeing more and more of these crashes occur, especially since COVID took place.
The big issue that the governor talked about and others have talked about is impaired driving. In your research, do you agree?
Absolutely. So since COVID, the vast majority of these crashes have been, probably 90% of those have been impaired driving related. Prior to COVID, almost 100% of those wrong-way fatal crashes have been at the hands of a driver that has a BAC that's above 0.2. So that's almost 3 times the legal limit for alcohol.
There are things that I'm sure as a researcher you wish you knew even more about what happened. And one of the things we were talking about before we started is a lot of times, unfortunately, some of the things you'd like to be able to look at, you can't find out, like where a person got on a highway or, what happened in the moments leading up to that crash. Is that one of the challenges in these type of crashes, is that they're so often fatal?
Absolutely. So a lot of the times you don't have the driver left on scene because they've passed away. So you can't really go back and try and track where they actually got on the interstate the wrong direction unless you have some witnesses that will tell you. So they may drive several miles in the wrong direction before they encounter another vehicle and actually get involved in a crash.
What is it about these types of crashes? Obviously, they make headlines when you have 4 young people lose their lives, but this type of incident on the highway, I mean, I can tell you, 20 years ago, I had a wrong-way driver pass me. I was heading to work doing TV, and I thought, what is that? And by the time, the closing distance is unbelievable, how fast they get on you. And by the time I realized it was a car in the same direction as me, it was already past me. Does it happen very quickly, and it's very dangerous because of the 2 cars going different speeds? I mean, what is it about these crashes?
Absolutely. It's an unexpected vehicle that you're not accounting for and expecting to be able to come at you. So you have to be able to react quickly. We tell people not to stay in the far left lane because that's where that car is going to be coming. So stay in the center lane or the far right lane to try and avoid oncoming wrong-way drivers that are coming down the roadway. But that speed of those 2 vehicles going in the opposite direction, it does come up on you very, very quickly.
All right, so let's talk about what can be done to fix this. So we do know that there's been some devices. We talked about them in the intro to this piece about alerting devices to try to stop people from going the wrong way. So you'd be going up and off ramp, and then you'd end up, of course, by following that, you'd be going the wrong way on the highway. So there are these flashing signs and warnings. How's that working?
So the Connecticut DOT's already released some footage of vehicles that have been alerted, and then actually turned around on the ramp and continued to go the correct direction. The major issue that we do see is those that are highly intoxicated or highly impaired. Those flashing lights don't stop them. They keep going in that opposite direction. Some other states have had some success with these flashing beacons and new technology that's put out on the roadways. So Connecticut's trying to follow in their footsteps in terms of being able to put these solutions out there to really start impacting drivers that are heading the wrong direction and turn them around.
So you mentioned Rhode Island is one that's doing some things. What are they doing that's different from us, and how could we emulate it?
So actually Texas started out a program, and then Rhode Island took over what they were doing, and then back in 2015, Rhode Island deployed these systems out. Prior to that, they had around 19 fatalities on their roadway in a 7-year period. And since they've deployed that technology, they've not had a single fatality due to wrong-way driving out on the roadways. Texas saw around a 30% reduction in their wrong-way driving. Rhode Island's a little bit easier state. It's much smaller. They have fewer ramps, so it's easier for them to deploy these out widespread as opposed to here in Connecticut, where we have a lot more ramps and a lot more square footage to coverage.
So it's the same stuff we're doing in Connecticut. They've just got it more widely spread across all their ramps.
Absolutely. Yep. We're actually using the same systems that Rhode Island kind of piloted. And there's been federal guidance put out on countermeasures. And this is one of the major countermeasures that the Federal Highway put out to combat wrong-way driving.
I know the state's approaching 30 ramps right now that have these countermeasures. They're hoping to get to 100 by the end of the year. Senator Christine Cohen, who's the chair of the Transportation Committee in the legislature, said that's good, but there's still a ways to go. Is that the goal, get these on more of the ramps?
Absolutely. That's the goal, is to get as much of that technology out there as possible. Another goal that we should really strive for in Connecticut is to crack down on impaired driving. That's kind of the root of the issue that we're seeing. It is those that are impaired. The flashing lights may not even stop them. They may continue right on. So if we can crack down on impaired driving while also putting out technology to alert not only the driver themselves that are going the wrong way, but alert the Connecticut DOT or alert the state police that there's a driver going the wrong direction, it's multiple steps to be able to get to that end goal of no more fatalities.
Two issues with the impaired driving, and the governor this past week said they're going to have more patrols out looking for impaired drivers, but there's the standards, and one is talk about going from 0.08 down to 0.05 for a blood alcohol, and the other is the cannabis problem. Talk to me first about blood alcohol level. Does the research bear out that that's a smart move?
Absolutely. So 0.08 to 0.05, what you'll notice, the research at 0.05 still says you're impaired in terms of your decision-making ability. You start to lose some of your motor function. So there is, from 0.05 to 0.08, there is a lot of loss of motor function that occurs there. 0.08's kind of been the national standard. Utah has dropped down to 0.05, and they've seen some dramatic improvements with their impaired driving situation and issues.
What about cannabis?
So when it comes to cannabis, the issue that we have with cannabis is it's now legal in the state. It's recreationally legal. It's hard to determine impairment, especially if that individual dies. There is no BAC for THC, so you cannot look at the nanograms that are in a person's blood and tell if they were impaired or not. So for those that pass away, we have no way of doing a field sobriety test. We have no way of understanding what that THC concentration in their blood actually means in terms of their ability to operate a motor vehicle.
So if I drink a beer, you can take a blood sample for me and determine, how much alcohol is in my system, and as that beer is processed through my system, that number is going to go down. Cannabis, you can detect that cannabis is in my system, but you don't know when it got there and how long it will take to go away. Is that kind of the issue?
Absolutely. So cannabis can stay in your system for 30 days. Just because it shows up on your blood results does not mean that you're impaired at the time. So that's kind of the major difference between alcohol and THC, is that there's no quantitative test right now to determine actual impairment.
So what's the big goal as you're looking at trying to fix this issue? Is it to get more alerts on ramps? Are there other things that we should be doing as far as countermeasures?
So, yeah, absolutely. Getting more technology out there on the roadways, looking at new and innovative solutions. So is there an alert system that we can put out on the roadways to alert other people that a car is coming the wrong direction? Is there a kind of a broadcast network that we can put out that as vehicles are detected, we can alert people in the area with a cell phone that a car is going the wrong way? Or can we start designing cars so that cars physically cannot drive the wrong way on the interstate? All of our cars now have GPS involved in them. They track which road we're on. If your car recognizes that it's going the wrong way on the interstate, it can either shut down or it can pull off to the side of the road to actually prevent you from being involved in a crash. There's a national push out there right now to put breathalyzers or devices in every car that would monitor the driver to see if the driver had been drinking prior to starting the vehicle. And if it notices that the driver is impaired or has a BAC above a certain level, your car wouldn't even start. So there's some technology solutions that are coming down the road, and we're hoping that those will have a major impact on safety.
All right, well, we'll keep watching as it keeps expanding. Hopefully we'll have you back to hear about the big successes. Dr. Eric Jackson, thanks for being with us.
Great, thank you.